Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. Just another Velocity Banking review. We've done this type of review several times, but I really want to hone it in because there are a lot of people out there who want to become landlords and they just think, oh man, I should just buy any old property. And if you ever listen to like Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he make it seem like you can borrow all the money you want and somehow you're going to cash flow, right? And I don't think that's true, just from my understanding, knowledge, and experience. So if you ever go to biggerpockets.com, right, there's an article that says cash flow for rental properties. What is average or good? And this is the biggest real estate investing website on the internet. Okay. And what do you think is good cash flow? $1,000, $2,000, right? Let's take a look right here. Let's do a quick search. And then you'll see in this section that they say good cash flow, and notice how they went good with quotation marks, is only about $100 to $200 a month per unit that you buy, right? So you're doing all this work. You may have a really good deal, a $200,000 loan, and you only get $100 to $200 a month, right? And I'm gonna tell you something, and you may have never heard of this term, but there's a good source of real estate deals out there, and they're from actually from other landlords. If you ever do a Google or YouTube search on tired landlords, you'll see a good number of these done with renters. Right here it says, "Watch me cold call landlords for deals." Are you a tired landlord? The tired landlord, my favorite seller. How to pull the tired landlord list for free. Real estate investor cold calls a tired landlord. Who's a tired landlord? Tired landlord got me a 17K deal. So there are a lot of people out there who get into real estate investing and want to become landlords because they buy into the hype train of, oh my goodness, I just buy any old rental property. And then you're like, what? I'm not even getting any cash flow. Because think about it, right? If $100 to $200 is good cash flow, what's average cash flow? It must be like zero or negative. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, for all the effort you put into getting the property, maintaining it, finding a tenant, it probably isn't worth it for the average landlord to stay in it for that long, which is why there's, tired landlords are where the deals are at because they just want to get rid of it. Too much emotional baggage with the renters and not enough meat on the bone, right? You know what I'm saying? That's why here in the first Dave Ramsey video, it says, done with renters, tired of being a landlord. And I get you, right? I remember the first time I tried to find tenants, I was like banging my head against the wall because I offered leases to like 7, 8 people, and they all flaked on me. But luckily, I had a tenant who paid me, what was it, 14 grand, my first rental real estate check. So it made up for that. But if you don't have that kind of a tenant and you're just, buying any old rental property, and you're accepting any old tenant, oh my goodness, the world is gonna feel you're gonna feel a lot of hurt, my friend. You are, okay? And so we're gonna talk about landlord reality, where if you're thinking, man, you got that $200,000 loan and you only have $200 of cash flow, might as well go to medical school or law school or something, because I guarantee, almost guarantee you, you spend $200,000 in medical school, you'll make more than $200 a month in cash flow. You know what I'm saying? But here's the thing, even if you have good deals, and this is my rental property, right? So this is I got this at the peak of the market, right? Peak of the market, 2022. Everyone remember 2022 peak of the market? I got this rental property for 210, and Zillow says it's worth about 3 something. Okay? I don't know exactly what it's worth. Even if it's worth 300, I got it for 210. And the easiest way to create wealth out of thin air when you do real estate investing is just buy it at a discount, right? Buy it at a discount, do some repairs, rent it out or sell it. I prefer to rent it because there's additional benefits other than the cash flow, which I'm not going to talk about here. But what I'm saying is that even if you get, let's say, $100,000 discount on a rental property, it's very possible that you have almost zero cash flow. Okay? So zero cash flow. So you have to know what you're getting yourself into. And actually, let's take a look here. So let's just put this in to a mortgage calculator as to what the difference between, let's say, traditional landlording is versus what we're going to do called velocity banking. So that's called traditional, and then we're going to do velocity banking. right? And so I want to show you what I mean by that. But let's say that, we got a good deal kind of like this, but it's only a $200,000 investment loan, okay? $200,000 for a $300,000 property. And if you know anything about investment mortgages, they usually have a higher interest rate because rental properties are a higher risk than a personal home. Like if crap hits the fan, you're going to do everything you can to pay for your personal home, but okay, like your rental property, who cares about that if you have financial problems? You know what I'm saying? So that's why usually like they're 7-8%. My investment mortgage is about 8%. And if you've never done the math, and let's just go to bankrate.com loan amortization. Okay, bankrate.com loan amortization. And you ever do the math with like an 8% loan? Okay, so $200,000 at 8%, right? Look at how much interest you pay. You get a $200,000 loan, and you pay the bank $328,000 over a course of 30 years. Okay, $328,000. So let's just do this. So bank gets 328K, and you, the landlord, what do you get? You get $200 of cash flow a month. Let's multiply it by 12 and then multiply that by 30 years. So that's 72K of cash flow over that course of the 30 years if you decide to hold it, right? So you, again, this is crazy, where let's take a look here. Let's zoom in. You did all the work. You found the tenant, you managed the tenant, you had to do the property, take care of the property maintenance, all that, and the bank didn't do any of that. The bank got pretty much like 4 to 5 times more than you did, and they didn't even go to the property. You know what I'm saying? They just collected interest, which is essentially rent on your money. You know what I'm saying? So you did, what the bank reminds me of. It's like when you do a group project, and you know how like every time you got a group project in school, like there are those kids who do absolutely nothing in that group project, and they somehow got a better grade than you. That's how traditional landlording is like for a lot of people. Hence, we have a lot of tired landlords because while the bank was just sitting there getting that $328,000, you only got $72,000 over the course of 30 years. Now, what we want to do is we essentially want to reverse that with something called velocity banking. Okay. And here's the thing that my opinion about being a landlord, I honestly think that rental properties are not a strategy to start off with if you're going to go head on in real estate investing. You have to do things that make you a lot of income in the beginning, whether it's fix and flipping or wholesaling, because you do a wholesaling transaction, you can make 5 to 20 grand, I think, a pop, but it's a lot of work, right? That's why you make more money with that type of transaction. And fix and flip, you should probably be making 30 to 50 grand per house, right? Maybe even more depending on how much, work you got to do. But you got to kind of start off with that, and then your rental properties are kind of there to kind of give you that passive income if you do it right. And that's the most important thing. You got to do it right. So let's go ahead and do our velocity banking. So let's just assume. So normally when I do these demonstrations, I talk about like, oh, paying off of debts in certain order. Well, let's just assume we've already done that. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, just go to another video on this channel, and I do kind of do the same demonstration over and over again. But let's just assume that, hey, we make decent income and we're ready for our own rental property, right? So we got a personal mortgage, and then we got that kind of deal where it's like we got a $300,000 house for a $100,000 discount. So we get a $200,000 mortgage at 8%, right? So when we get a rental property, we always want to be in a position where if the tenant doesn't pay rent, right, we'll be okay, right? So in this case, if the tenant doesn't pay rent, at least we have 1,600 left over, right? And this doesn't include your rental income, not yet, right? Because we're just starting to get the rental property. But what I'm saying is that you never want to be in a position, I know I say this like 3 times, where if the tenant doesn't pay rent, you're going to be screwed. Okay? Because human beings in general, when they feel like you need their money, they you almost want to use that like as a second impulse to control you. like this underlying impulse. Oh my goodness, my landlord leaves the rent, so I'm not going to give it to him. I don't know why people are like that, but unfortunately, human beings are like that, right? You probably remember in the lockdowns, and landlords couldn't collect rent, and then tenants did what they did, unfortunately, and landlords had to sell at a loss. Now, so what we're going to do is we're going to use the power of our line of credit to help us pay off our investment mortgage quicker. So what we need to do is now include the tenant's income. So we'll assume that this is a $2,000 a month rental property, and just be aware that you don't get the full $2,000. You only get, we estimate 70% of it. You got to pay insurance, taxes, and all that. So our income with the tenant's income would be about 7,400. Okay. And what we're going to do is use the full power of our cash flow into our mortgage with the help of a line of credit. So, I mean, think about this. How long does it take to pay off, let's say, $8,000 of this investment mortgage? If you take a look at this amortization schedule, right? So there's the amortization schedule right here. You'll notice if you want to pay off $8,000 of the balance, it's going to take us about almost 4 years and some change, right? Whereas let's just go ahead and move $8,000. So this is going to be 192K. Actually, did I calculate this correctly? Yeah, 4 years and some change. 192K. So let's move $8,000 into this line of credit. Okay. And then what we're going to do is just use our cash flow to pay this off, right? Whoopsie. Oh man, I'm so sleepy. I'm doing this late at night. And then what we're going to do is put our entire paycheck, the 7,400, into a line of credit, and then take out our expenses and rinse and repeat over and over again. So it should go down by 3,098. And to get the next month's balance, it's the previous month's balance plus the previous month's interest minus this cash flow right here. So 3089.26. And then to calculate the average, the interest, it's based on the average daily balance, right? And then multiply it by the interest rate, we'll say 10%, and then divide by 12. And then you'll see that in about 3 months, we'll pay off $8,000 of that mortgage. Whereas if we just followed the bank's schedule, it would have taken us about a little bit more than 4 years, right? And so this is kind of, so, I know I'm kind of skipping over things, but we're paying off the principal of the mortgage with the help of a line of credit. That's essentially the very last step of velocity banking. I'm kind of skipping over things, but what I'm trying to show you is that we want to essentially reverse this situation where traditionally, okay, if we had held on to this for 30 years, I'm sorry, we were just going to get $200 of cash flow. And what we want to do is just kind of reverse this, where if we pay off the debt as quickly as possible with our cash flow, then we're going to make a lot more than the bank, and we're going to essentially reverse this traditional real estate investing scenario situation and not experience the $200 of cash flow. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So if you want, so again, you would just rinse and repeat over and over again. And so if you want an accurate calculator as to the payoff, again, we have this right here. This is from Renatus. This is where I first originally learned about velocity banking and real estate investing. And so all you got to do is just put in the numbers here. And the cool thing is that I don't have to think too much. I just input it, I set it and forget it, and it'll tell me the time that everything gets paid off. So let me just go in here. So put in what's the what's it called? Oh, here we go. The monthly payment of that mortgage, right? So let's put that payment amount right here. Okay. A chunk amount is how much we move to the line of credit. We'll just say 8,000. But although it doesn't really matter that much if you use 8 or 10, the lower the number in general, the more the less you pay in interest. But sometimes I've kind of played around, and I've actually, when I put it too low, it actually says it gets a worse result, which is really curious. Again, I don't know the entire mechanics of what the optimal amount to move to the line of credit is. All I know is you don't replace the whole thing with the line of credit. All right. And when I say the whole thing, the whole 200,000. All right. So let me go in here and let's just go ahead and put in the income. And it's really simple. So our income is our, let's say, maybe work a W-2 job or 1099, we fix and flip, our active income versus our tenant's passive income. And it's only passive if you know how to select the right tenant. But let's put 7,400 right here. And what is our expenses? It's just everything except for the loan we're trying to pay off. So it's our personal mortgage plus the other food, gas, and all that. So it's 2843.21. So 2843.21. Okay. And how long does it take to pay this off? 4.4 years, right? 4.4 years. So what we're going to do is just not take any thing from that rental property for about 4.4 years, which means we're going to have about 25.6 years of cash flow. I hope I did the math right. So 25.6 years of cash flow. So let's just kind of go back right here. So this is what we're going to do with velocity banking. So for 4.4 years, we're not going to take anything from the rental property because we're going to focus on paying off the debt. Okay, we're going to take our income plus the tenant's income, and with the help of line of credit, dump it all in there, and then about 4.4 years, we'll call that our phase in which we seed the what's it called? I don't know if we call it seeding the cash flow, but basically, even though we had a great deal where we got $100,000 discount, this thing's like a time bomb, right? Because if you don't pay it off quickly, the bank's going to make a lot more money than you. And so if we take a look here, we only pay the bank about $37,000 in interest. Okay, that's much better than paying $328,000. So the bank is only going to get 37K. And to figure out our cash flow, right? Again, so our cash flow are the amount of cash flow that we will get because again, for 4.4 years, we're not going to make any money. So for 25.6 years, 25.6 years, we're going to get $1,700 a month. Again, $2,000 times 70%. We don't get the whole 2,000. And I know rents will go up, but we're just being a little bit conservative here. Times 12 times 30 years. Again, 12 months, 30 years. And how much cash flow are we getting? Oh, did I screw up? 25.6. Oh, no, I did screw up. It's not 30 years, it's 25.6. So about 522,000. So the landlord here equals gets 522,000 of cash flow in addition to the $100,000 of equity, right? So you're probably making about 622 very conservatively, and that's assuming that there's no appreciation. But we doing way better just with one house than what most real estate investors do traditionally, which is getting, if they work very hard to get that $200 of cash flow, $200 of cash flow, they're going to be tired. And that's why, tired landlords, people know that tired landlords are a good source of deals because they're working very, very hard to only get $200 a month, right here, 7,500 from tired landlord. Crush it with tired landlords because they ain't making that much. A lot of people, especially politicians, they like to speak about, like, especially in tenant friendly states, about how landlords are kind of taking advantage of them. But really, the main person getting taken advantage of is the landlord, especially if you're in like a tenant friendly state and you recently bought, which is probably one of the most crazy things ever. But again, we're gonna get out of the struggle bus and be on the party bus right here. And here's the cool thing, unlike most real estate investing where people are talking about I got to get 20 houses in like 1 year, you could just get one house every couple of years, right? So let's say you got, one rental property paid off in about 4.4 years, right? Just repeat the process again. All you got to do is get another house, same house for, 300 $200,000 house for, I'm sorry, a $300,000 house for $200,000. And then, okay, you just add that tenant's income, so 2,000 times 70%, okay? And now the next house is going to pay off in 3.2 years, right? And then, you just rinse and repeat again, pay off the house in 3.2 years, and then get a new house that's discounted. And then the next house you're going to pay off in 2.5 years, and you're going to be good. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be good. And after 3 years, or not 3 years, three houses, you better off than most people because you probably have like $1 million of equity with just those three houses and cash flow. And what else? I mean, all I'm saying is that once you get all that cash flow from those just three or four houses, you ain't going to be a tired landlord because number one, you could be really picky with your tenants, right? You don't have to select any old tenant just so that you can have a body fill in the space of a house, right? And then you're going to have good cash flow. You're not going to deal with this BS where the bank's making all the money and you doing all the work. You're going to make all the money and do the work too. And the bank's just going to help you get there, right? I don't mind paying some interest to the bank, but man, I'm not going to be a tired landlord. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so that's just it for today. This is what I'm doing right now. In fact, maybe I'm just kind of jumping the gun a little bit, but in about 3 months or so, I'm going to have my home paid off. And then by doing this strategy, I'm going to have my rental property paid off in about, I don't know, 2.5 years. So, I don't know if lazy landlord is the right word, but I'm certainly not a tired landlord. Okay. All right. Well, that's it for today. Have a great day. Good night, everybody, and we'll speak next time.